Hey guys, are you working on your Common Application or other applications for college and wondering, am I doing a good job? What can I do to make my essay more awesome? If so, stay tuned because we are going to talk about some of the most common mistakes that students make on their college essays. Before we get into things, I remind all of you, subscribe to our channel. And go to SupertutorTV.com, check out the best ACT prep course ever. You can also subscribe to our mailing list, SupertutorTV.com/subscribe. We will keep you updated with all the awesome products and amazing stuff that we have here. We do a lot of test prep stuff too, so we have lots of blogs on that. So if you're taking the ACT, we have an awesome online prep course with over 50 hours of video content that you can go check out and sign up for today. So go check it out. The 3 mistakes students make when they write essays is that they write essays that are 1, melodramatic, 2, what I'd call impenetrable, and 3, what I'd call impersonal, okay? And impenetrable and impersonal sometimes go together. So what do I mean by these things? Well, I'm gonna show you some examples of some essays. Basically, I've written these essays inspired by actual student essays. I'm not showing you my actual students' essays, but I am showing you essays that I wrote inspired by exactly what they did. So first, let's talk about melodrama. What is melodrama? Melodrama is the fact that you guys are like 16 years old, okay? Or 17, or maybe 18. Maybe you're a transfer student, maybe you're 20. But here's the deal. When you're that age, you probably don't know everything about the world. Heck, I'm a lot older than that, and I really don't know everything about the world. And some of you write as if you do know a lot about the world, and in a way that is very, it can be self-aggrandizing. What I mean by that is that you make yourself seem super awesome and super amazing and like you have saved the world. Sometimes it's the idea that just like everything you say is like the most amazing thing you've encountered ever. And like, because you guys are so worried about coming off as like passionate, you come off as so zealous that like it's unrealistic and you need to come back to earth and stop talking in the stratosphere. So I'm going to show you guys a quick short essay that is over the top and melodramatic. You don't want to make your life into something that is bigger and beyond what your boots can handle, okay? You want to be realistic and reasonable about your life in a way that's honest and engaging and that draws us in and that's approachable, okay? And that's the problem with melodrama. Melodrama kind of shuts out the reader in a way because it's so over the top that like we scratch our heads and we don't feel like we get it and we don't feel like we connect with you, okay? All right, so here we have, since I was only a toddler, the glory, the sound, and the sight of the piano have mesmerized me. Music takes us to places beyond reality. It is the energy of life itself. Do you guys see what I'm doing? Do you see what's going on? It's like, oh my God, music is so amazing. Like I am so passionate. It's just so over the top, okay? It's too much. Despite the challenges, organizing rehearsals in our overbooked music practice rooms, agreeing on music, and overcoming the obstacle of where to do gigs, we persevered. It's like, you're persevering and like, yeah, you started a little club and you guys practice and you organize the rehearsals. It's like, yeah, like that's cool. And yes, like that's something that you did and you can explain that, but you're not like saving the world and you didn't like win a world war. And this isn't like coming up with the cure for cancer. And so treating it as if it is like something that is like so amazing and like we persevered and like turning it into this dramatic arc when it's really just kind of an everyday experience that you had in high school and you did some cool things is just overkill and it doesn't work very well. And again, the problem with it is that it isolates your audience. It doesn't draw us in. It doesn't make us think, oh gosh, like that's such a cool story. I totally understand where she's coming from, okay? And then we have, from there, our performances continued, spreading the love to the elderly, children, and veterans. Our musical abilities only got better and better. We shared the harmony of music with others, and there was no greater feeling in all the world. Do you see how it's just like everything is sunshine and roses, and everything is wonderful, and everything is emphatic, and everything's a superlative? I'm more interested in complexity. I'm more interested in nuance. I'm not saying that everyone in the world knows how to write with complexity and nuance, but if you can write about those things, then you want to do that. And the other thing that you want to come across as is reasonable, likable, approachable, and down to earth. And I think the problem above all with melodrama is that it's not down to earth enough. it doesn't make you feel like you're relatable. So just watch it. When you're writing these essays, make sure you're not too overdramatic, make sure you're not too melodramatic, and that you let us in as readers and you let us be with you and you're humble enough so that we feel like we're on the same level with you, as opposed to like, you get what I mean. The impersonal essay is something that I encounter oftentimes when people talk about academics. It doesn't mean you can never talk about academics, but a lot of times when people talk about academics, it gets really impersonal really fast. I also know that some people are afraid of talking about other people because they think it will become impersonal, and that can happen. You could write an essay all about your grandma and literally you are nowhere on the page. Somewhere on the page, you have to be there. There have to be some eyes. There has to be some reflection on who you are, on what you think, and on what you're all about, because this is the college's opportunity to get to know you. So what I would say is you have to be careful not to be so impersonal that we really get nothing about who you are. You might talk about your class. You might talk about an academic idea that you learned. You may even talk about something that you did, but if you're not being emotional and you're not reflecting on who you are, that's a problem. The example that I'm about to give is actually problematic in two ways. It's not only impersonal, it's also impenetrable, which is the third thing that I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to get into impenetrable first, and then I'm going to show you this example, and then I'll round out with one last example that I think is also a little bit impenetrable or a little too superficial. So when I talk about impenetrable, the idea of that is when we read your essay, you have to make whatever it is that you're trying to share accessible. A lot of times students have trouble expressing what's inside of themselves in a way that other people can really connect with and understand. Just because you know everything about yourself doesn't mean that we do. Just because you know when you say a few words like, this is what interested me in it, or, oh, like ever since I was 6 and I did this, I've been interested in this. We don't understand necessarily why you're interested in it. We don't understand why that's so significant. And basically, this is a problem of undertelling, so to speak. You haven't done a good enough job telling the story to us, if you're writing an impenetrable essay, that we actually get it, that we actually get why you're interested in these things. We might know, for example, my favorite thing to say with impenetrable is I might know that you're interested in something, but I don't know why you're interested in it. So we're going to get back to that in a second, but I want to jump right now into this impersonal and impenetrable essay, and then we're going to show you one that's just impenetrable, okay? We have the outcome of the experiment met the team's expectation, and it turned out to be successful. I was the data commissioner in this research. So first of all, the diction in this is really awkward. It required excellent mathematical aptitude. The result discovered in our research was calculated with the formula, and then they literally give a math formula to study the margin of error that exists in the data they collected and prove the rationality of the formula. It's like I read it and I get a little dizzy. Do you get what I'm saying? It sounds fancy, but I don't quite know. What does this tell me about this student? Do you get what I'm saying? He's like line by line telling me about some experiment, but I don't know what his emotional reaction to it is, what his process is, why this is a story, what this has to do with him, what this has to do with personal development. In a chart, I recorded the data of the amount of the pendulum swinging time and pendulum length. There were in total 8 experiments in this research and 8 results were recorded. However, the 6th one was neglected because of the irregular amplitude of the swinging. The other 7 results were substituted into the formula and the outcome derived from running the mathematical operation. This doesn't even make sense to me, number one, okay? I don't even know what's going on. It's just a bunch of like, here's what I did in science class. 2, I have no idea what this has to do with the student and with what his desires are and with what he wanted to accomplish, and I know nothing personal about him. Do you guys see that? 3, and this is a warning to all of you who are trying to write about stuff and sound really smart. I always want to feel smarter after I read your essay. I want to feel like I learned something. I don't want to feel like I don't know what's going on and I must be stupid or foolish or I don't get it. You always want to write in a way that invites your readers in. If you're writing about something esoteric, if you're writing about something random in science, you have to let us into it in a way that 1, inspires us, 2, explains it to us so we actually get what's going on, and 3, has a little bit of a touch of a personal voice so that as I read it, I get to know you, because that's the bottom line for all this stuff, okay? Now finally, I'm going to give you one more example of an essay, and this essay is, like I said, this one's just impenetrable. Some of you might not be able to relate to this essay because you're like, oh my God, I would never write something that's so impersonal, or I would never write something that's so like difficult to understand. But this next essay that I'm going to share with you guys, I think is actually far more typical of what I see from a lot of students. And basically, this essay is what I call underwritten. It means that it hasn't developed its points. Now, I know some of you are concerned because you're like, oh my God, I only have like 200 words or 250 words or 350 words for this particular essay. And my advice to you, if you're concerned about length, is go for depth over breadth, right? Like go develop one idea deeply and really allow us into that experience and tell us a story. And don't worry about trying to cover ground in every little dimension, okay? So this is what I would call like a superficial passion essay. It just kind of misses the mark because I have too many questions, and I'm going to get into what those questions are and why this is problematic and why this is just, it's hard for us to like get into and really get what it is you're trying to express. My academic interests have always involved psychology and economics. To begin, my interest in psychology began well before I was able to comprehend what psychology truly meant. Okay, that was super redundant. We have began and begin. And even if I fix that, do you see how this is just fluff? I was interested in it before I even knew what it was. But I don't get much out of it, okay? To me, the world was filled with mysteries. As a curious child, I simply wanted to discover answers. This is like just super vague and cliche. Everybody's like, oh, I was curious and I want to discover answers because somebody told you have to come off as curious. But this is like such a vague way to be curious. When I was finally old enough to understand and learn the disciplines, either via books or at school, psychology not only answered many of my questions, but also raised countless new ones. Again, this is like super cliche. Here's the problem. You've told me that you're passionate about psychology, but you haven't shared with me an aha moment. Do you get what I'm saying? And the fix for this is that I want to see what I call an aha moment. And I want to see it in narrative form. I want you to tell me a story that explains why you feel this way. Don't just explain that you feel this way. And that's one of the biggest things that I tell students when I work with them. I'm always looking for the why, and the why comes from telling stories, okay? The stories are going to help open up for us that why. I don't just want to know that you feel a certain way. I don't want to know that you're passionate. I want to know why you're passionate, okay? I want to feel how you felt when you first had that aha, okay? I want you to put me in the situation with you. I want to sit next to you in the school bus while you're having this epiphany. I want to be there with you. And the way that you bring me in, the way that you draw me in, the way that you make yourself approachable is story, story, story. The answer for an essay that's impenetrable and superficial is narrative. Stories are what's going to open this up. It's what's going to make you sound deeper. It's what's going to help us get where you're coming from, who you are, and help us feel like we're connected to your story and not put at arm's length. I hope you guys liked this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And if you're prepping for the ACT or thinking about it, go check out the best ACT prep course ever at SupertutorTV.com. I will see you guys soon. Ciao for now.